in the past 15 plus years, anytime we got in a recession, the Fed printed us out. But now you have inflation that is far above what they want it to be. And so it's going to be really hard for them to print their way out of this. And what that's going to do is it's going to drive stock prices much lower, right? So you have a recession that keeps getting worse and worse and worse, which means corporate earnings are going to get worse and worse. Valuations on stocks have to come down even more. But there will be a point now where investors, and this is going to be coupled with transparency through regulation. Once you get regulation in the crypto space, big money is going to say, listen, I have to put money somewhere to work. Doesn't make sense in a bad recession to put it in stocks right now. Gold, yes. Silver, yes. And then also, I think Bitcoin starts to become a player here.
Popular technical analyst Gareth Soloway is fast becoming very bullish on Bitcoin, even in the near term. In previous months, the veteran swing trader had predicted that the world's leading cryptocurrency could fall to a record low of $3,500. For that extremely bearish prediction, Soloway borrowed from the example of the dot-com bubble when top stock prices fell as low as 95%. He believed the cryptocurrency market could face a similar carnage in 2022, which would see crypto asset prices fall about 90 to 95% from their all-time highs. We've seen some of the carnage Soloway predicted with the June contagion and the FTX collapse, but the price declines have not been as massive. In a recent interview with Debate Crypto, Soloway explains that crypto investors, including big money and retail investors, have become familiar with the extreme volatility of the industry. As such, they are not pulling out money massively at the tiniest whiff of price declines. Simply put, investors now completely trust that Bitcoin will maintain its position as a top asset class, regardless of extreme market conditions. According to the renowned technical analyst, the macro environment will worsen in 2023, driving more big money investors to Bitcoin and other top cryptocurrencies. We will now take you to Soloway's interview with Debate Crypto. Please watch the video to the end as we also bring you massive predictions from popular on-chain analyst Willy Woo. Also, ensure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I'm looking now around 9,000. It's
9,000.
The kind of the signals I'm seeing out there are kind of pointing to 9,000. Some of the things that I'm looking at and kind of some cool stuff is that, you see what happened with FTX and the equivalent of that kind of happened in 2008 with the stock market with Lehman Brothers collapse. And what I did was I looked back at the S&P when Lehman collapsed. Lehman collapsed on September 15th of 2008. And it took about 5 to 6 months for the stock market to bottom after that occurred, right? So it was about 6 months of September, and we bottomed at the beginning of March 2009. And so that gives us a time period now. And this is what I've been kind of isolating down, like when will crypto finally bottom out? So it looks like 6 months from about a week or two ago when FTX really started to collapse. So that puts us kind of towards the May-ish period of 2023. And then I also looked at, well, how much did the S&P fall in the following 6 months once Lehman hit? And it was about 40 to 45%, which puts us right around that 9,000-ish area, give or take. The 9,000 area also triggers a 10,000 break, which will stop out a lot of weak hands. Like there's going to be, bottoms in markets are put in when you freak out the maximum amount of people. And it makes sense that a break of that even number of 10,000 will really freak out a lot of people. And so that's likely where that final flush out occurs at that point. So I think that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people wonder why Lehman is like FTX. And what I would say is that the exchanges are essentially the banks of the regular industry, right? That's where we put our money. That's where potentially we've been earning returns like 10% by staking. I mean, all these type of things going on in the crypto markets. And so there is a lot of similarities there. Interestingly enough, in 2008, we saw, following that collapse in the banking issues, we saw regulation called Dodd-Frank. It came out following the financial crisis. And here we are with issues that are probably going to bring forth regulation. So there's so many weird similarities between the 2008 period and what's going on in crypto that you can't deny that there's probably some sort of, similarities here.
And how long did it take for regulation from the 2008 occasion for regulation to come out after that?
I think it was by early 2009. So it was actually within 6 months that it actually was pushed through because it was such a dramatic issue, right? There were so many people burned, much like in this crypto scenario, that the politicians actually had a fire lit under their ass, right? They were like, all right, we got to do something because people are demanding it. And I think that's what you'll see. I think you'll see a framework within 3 months of this, and then ultimately probably push through within 6 months, which should coincide with the bottom as well. So kind of cool stuff there.
Yep.
One other thing I'll show you guys, and this is just some cool charting, and this is also giving me confidence that we're getting close to the lows in crypto, is that if you look here, right? So if we go to this chart, so this is the Terra Luna drop, right? So the Terra Luna drop occurred in June of 2022. Bitcoin was trading around 31,500. It bottomed out around 17,000 and change. It was about a 45% drop, right? And then if you look at the FTX drop, it went from 21,000 and change to basically 15 and change. That's about a 25% drop. And what's interesting about that is that if you look at this drop compared to this drop, this one, arguably the FTX collapse, it was actually worse than Terra Luna, right? In terms of people getting burned and everything like that. And so in theory, this one should be bigger. This one should have been a bigger percentage drop in crypto. The fact that it isn't is telling us that money is getting used to these bad headlines and they're okay with it. They're becoming, I shouldn't say they're okay with it, but they're getting used to it. It's becoming more like, okay, there's another collapse. It's not the end of the world for Bitcoin. And I think if that makes sense, if we see another collapse, in theory, it might only take us down 15 or 10%. And as you get down there, people just start to say, all right, listen, Bitcoin's going to survive. These bad actors are going to get flushed out. Let's start to buy down here versus just panicking and selling.
As Soloway explains, the FTX collapse dealt a greater blow to the entire crypto market, especially in terms of market sentiments, than the Terra Luna collapse. But the price decline was not worse. This, according to Soloway, is a sign that investors are resigned to these quick bursts of extreme volatility. The industry is maturing more, and after 13 long years, many are finally convinced that Bitcoin will always be a profitable and dependable asset. In a recent tweet, top on-chain analyst Willy Wu says long-term holders are helping to keep Bitcoin prices stable. Here's Wu's tweet. If you're wondering why Bitcoin is holding up against so much deleveraging, it's the long-term hodlers, the Rick Astleys who ain't giving up their Bitcoin, that are absorbing the sells. They are buying spot and adding to their stack. In his interview, Soloway discusses Fed Chair Jerome Powell's recent remarks about a possible Fed pivot and how it might have contributed to the recent Bitcoin rally to 17,300. Soloway adds that a recession is still on the horizon, which would mean lower prices for several assets but not for Bitcoin. Here is Gareth Soloway on the 2023 macro environment, recession, and crypto regulation.
Because Jerome Powell had a speech, and in the speech he said that the Fed was now at the point where they were going to raise rates less and less and essentially get down to the point where they're not raising it anymore. And we know that the Fed has raised it 4 times in a row of 75 basis points. So the market had some short covering there. Bitcoin saw a nice little pop there. A lot of cryptos upticked a little bit. And that's really the first verbiage where the Fed is now saying, hey, we're going to start calming down the hiking of rates. Now, for me, I look at it and I say, all right, did the market deserve a big rally? I mean, they're still going to raise rates by 50 basis points in about a 2-week span, right? On December 14th is their next meeting. And you probably have not seen the impact of the last couple 75 basis point hikes in the economy, right? It takes 6 to 9 months for a one rate hike to filter fully into the economy. So I think the market's maybe a little bit ahead of themselves here. But I do think that at least when you come to Bitcoin, you're in that final downward move. And again, it's been a long time since I've gotten even slightly bullish on Bitcoin, but I'm starting to get there. I still think it goes to 9,000, but I think that end is in sight. It's less than $7,000 away. I mean, percentage wise, it's big from here. But if you were in at 68,000 or 69,000, it's dropped a lot. Now it just has a little bit left to go before I think you get that bottom. So it's kind of exciting to see, because I do think that 2023 is a year where crypto, well, at least Bitcoin and ETH flip to where they become that strategic safety hedge, right? So up until now, we know when the stock market falls, crypto generally falls, right? It's de-risking money coming out of risk assets. At some point in 2023, I expect it to basically what you'll see, and what I'm expecting is all these rate hikes eventually by the mid portion of next year are filtered into the system. We'll be in a pretty nasty recession by that point. And recessions this is going to be a different recession than anything we've seen in the past 15 years, right? Because in the past 15 plus years, anytime we got in a recession, the Fed printed us out. But now you have
Yep.
inflation that is far above what they want it to be. And so it's going to be really hard for them to print their way out of this. And what that's going to do is it's going to drive stock prices much lower, right? So you have a recession that keeps getting worse and worse and worse, which means corporate earnings are going to get worse and worse. Valuations on stocks have to come down even more. But there will be a point now where investors, and this is going to be coupled with transparency through regulation. Once you get regulation in the crypto space, big money is going to say, listen, I have to put money somewhere to work. Doesn't make sense in a bad recession to put it in stocks right now. Gold, yes. Silver, yes. And then also, I think Bitcoin starts to become a player here. And again, it has to be coordinated with transparency, though. We know from FTX, there were so many big money players that got screwed there. And there's no way big money is going near crypto until there's some sort of rules that these companies have to abide by. So you get transparency through regulation. You then see the economy get worse and worse in 2023. I think Bitcoin bottoms out around 9,000, and you start to actually head back up. I think that if you have to choose between a little over-regulation or no regulation at all, you choose a little over-regulation at this point, because it's just not, this is not a good environment in crypto where, you know, investors have to pull their money off exchanges because they fear it's going to vanish tomorrow. That's not a healthy atmosphere for investors and for investing. So you have to go with that side. And my hope is that politicians, and I think a lot of them do, they realize how many jobs are associated with blockchain technology now. And I think you have to say that the popularity of crypto, even in this bear market, it's getting more and more popular. And that means votes, right? So if they push things too far, they might not get reelected. And I really hope that pressure brings forth the right amount of regulation.
In one of his tweets, Willy Woo predicts that Bitcoin will soon hit the threshold of 1 billion users. Quoting a tweet from MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor, Woo writes, "This survey puts users at 575 million, while my study, extrapolating conservative lower bound Cambridge data, puts us at 350 million users for the minimum estimate. Either way, Bitcoin is easily on track for its first billion users very soon." With 1 billion people, around 12% of the world's population using, holding, and trading Bitcoin, prices will climb faster, and the assets spread to the rest of the world will be much quicker. In a previous tweet, Wu predicted that we would hit the 1 billion users threshold in 3 years. What's your timeline for Bitcoin getting to 1 billion users? Please drop your replies as well as comments on Soloway's interview and Wu's tweets in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss any of our videos featuring interviews from some of the brightest minds in the cryptocurrency industry. Thanks for watching.